Hello, it's Tamara Hunter, and today is day number 169 of 365 days of awesome. Celebrate success through service. And yes, it is also Christmas Eve. And for those that celebrate it, happy Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve. Um, as you can tell, I am celebrating a service hero, if you will, concept. Service heroes, multiple. Many of them have now passed, but they're still, nevertheless, service heroes. And being the genealogist that I am and the history nut, this absolutely makes a lot of sense, guys. And also, I have been invited to be a part of the Speakers Pathway Coalition that has some amazing courses in their membership site. And I've been taking them. I am a part of the group. And I have been just eating that information up because I am a bit of a self-proclaimed geek. I love to learn. And I was watching Dr. E.J. Johnson's course about storytelling, and also Bill Heinrich's class about basically just everything that he is, transforming yourself to realize that life is perfect, working your inner game. And then also Monique Johnson, who is, I was taking class about social media training, and because she gets it, she's a millennial, and I could learn a lot from her. We can learn a lot from the millennials and those that are coming up, but we can also learn a lot from those that have been here with us in the past. And that's what I want to celebrate right now, and also talk about a story. It came to me after I spent time with Shay Johnson with the class. Basically, he makes you feel like you're right there with him, which is such a talent. And he talked about 7 different methods of telling a story, different frameworks. And I am going to kind of cross over some of these frameworks. And so give me a little liberty, please, because I want to tell also about service heroes and service hero concepts here. If you don't know the movie, there's a movie that is titled It's a Wonderful Life. It was a movie that actually was released in 1945, January 7th, 1945 to be exact. And anybody that knows what was happening in 1945, we were a world at war. That war did not end until May the 8th, 1945. So think about this. You have a story that is told about a wonderful life. And it's a story about someone's life. And I'm going to go into it a bit because it's very impactful for right now. It truly is an ageless story. The story goes in It's a Wonderful Life, the backstory, the story behind the story. Let's start there. Frank Capra was it was his vision. This story was actually a short story that was purchased by RKO, and they didn't know what to do with it. And they had different writers try to come up with the longer concept for the story. Yes, thank you for stepping in and saying something, Angela. I'm going to actually talk about why so many of us love this story. And it's a gift to the world, many, for those. That's why I'm telling this story behind the story. Thank you for stepping up, Angela, and Merry Christmas Eve to you. And I hope, please, everybody, that I am ever so careful because I have a nonprofit that is serving people throughout the world, basically, and I don't take a stand when it comes to things. But, it's Christmas Eve, and I actually do celebrate Christmas. That's Tamara Hunter, my personal thing. So, and I'm a big kid, so I hope you guys go along with it with me. But, all right, so the story behind the story. RKO has the story, a short story, and Frank Capra. There are three different writers tried getting, and oh my gosh, if you go into the story behind the story, it's really interesting what they were thinking they would do with it. So glad that they did it, because we wouldn't have the masterpiece, the simplicity of a masterpiece that we have. And at the same time, the movie system back in the day was big box. Let's just think of it a big box system. It was a well-oiled machine, but you were more employees. Even if you were a director producer, you were employees of the big boxes. Then some of them started to go out on their own. And Frank Capra, along with a few of his buddies, decided to do so, and they created Liberty Films. And this was their first release. Well, fast forward, in the 1970s, there was a clerical error in regards to keeping the copyright up and keeping the rights for them to the way it worked. TV, if you use someone's film, you paid for it. Well, this became a free film in the 1970s. So a lot of us were able to transform ourselves back into this angelic time that was portrayed in much of the movie. And you get to know George Bailey. You get to know the characters in the film. They become your family, because if you were like me, which I've always had a little bit of insomnia, this was a show that was often on in the middle of the night because it didn't cost the stations anything to play it. It became a holiday favorite. Not only were we a world at war, but it was also a huge snowstorm or a big snow. There are a lot of storms. And so people did not go out. It did well at the box office, they said, but it wasn't the box office hit that it was designed to actually be. Well, okay, so what's the story of It's a Wonderful Life? I'm going to go through this kind of lightning speed. Yet, I really want to pay homage to it. So let's go through it. Basically, what it is a story that all of us at some time in our life can relate to. Many of you know my story. I'm a survivor of cancer. I come from a family that's been, if you will, gifted. Let's look at it that way. I'm reframing my thoughts, guys. Wink, wink. To have learning experiences through 4 generations, 5 people in a direct line. My grandfather, who I am actually going to be bringing up now and at the end. My grandfather, who does he look like? Yeah, he looks a little bit like the character that played George Bailey, the man, James Stewart. I always thought he did too. His style, the way his mannerisms, the way he spoke, even his body style, the height, even the jawline and the high forehead, all of it. My grandfather was born into a family of land in the Dakotas. He was the first grandson, that first of that next generation, and the way that traditionally it worked, the land would have been handed to him. But he and his grandfather had some issues, and because of integrity, he walked away from his birthright, and he ended up becoming a vagrant on the railroads. He ended up riding the railroad cars, and in fact, the story goes that he was in Salt Lake City, and he was even arrested and slept in jail one night. My grandfather, of all people, he was the most honest man you would ever know. He spent the night in jail because he was considered a vagrant. He didn't have a place to sleep. He was penniless. Here he was, the golden child of that family, but due to some unethical things, and I still have tried to put together the full story, but due to some issues that his integrity level would not stand for, he gave up his birthright and became penniless. And he then ends up in Southern California. And he didn't, I think, I don't know how his health was before all of this happened, but he ended up having health issues. And during World War II, he also had flat feet. You didn't get to serve if you had flat feet. So he went to Hawaii and he helped rebuild it. Well, forward into the fact that he never did, through his life, he never did recover his, if you will, earthly wealth. However, he gained so much more. Hold that thought. We're going to go forward with the story of George Bailey now. My grandfather's name is Ronald Mitchell, was Ronald Mitchell. Hi, Mikey. I know that you don't celebrate Christmas. You're a Hanukkah person, but Merry Christmas Eve. You did celebrate with me with your Christmas hat. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here. All right, let's continue with the story, guys. All right, so the story is a story of a good doer, someone that lives in a small town. And he does things from early childhood, where he makes decisions that change his life. And he wanted to travel the world. He had grand ideas. He's a very brilliant man in the story, and yet humble man, much like my grandfather was. And he ends up staying at a very rough time when he wants to go travel. It's finally his turn. His brother goes on to school. He waits behind. He's finally going to get to go, and he gets to go. He has, he has passage to go on a big, huge journey, adventure, and he goes to get a suitcase. And that scene where he's got his hands out, that's where he's saying he needs a suitcase, and it's this big. And he wants and then the suitcase guy, because this was a gift from the town, because he had done so many good deeds throughout his years. Okay, so the gift from the town to go on this adventure, and he doesn't get to go. Circumstances. So he makes a lot of choices, and his father, with his father, who is portrayed, this man, and he had the only other option for like a bank or savings and loan type of an organization that was up against the big bad banker. Okay, you had the big bad banker guy, and he was not a good guy. He was a crotchety old bad guy that did, that really wanted, it was all about the money. He was all about power. He was all about owning the town. And the Baileys were the only ones keeping him from owning that town. Well, a goof up happens. And his father dies. Step back, his father dies. And he's getting ready to finally go on his trip. He's all excited about it. He cleans up stuff after his father's death. And here he is before the board. And the board says, well, we're going to close it down unless you stay and run it. What'd he do? You haven't seen the movie. I bet you already know. If you've seen the movie, you love it, just like I do. Yeah, he stays. He stays because the only ones that were standing up to the big bad banker guy that was going to own the town was this little savings and loan. All right, so he stays. He gives up his opportunity to go once again. So then, forward that there's, of course, you got to have some love life stuff in there. And there's this girl that's been in town, Mary, and she's had her heart set on, I went too fast on that one. She's had her heart set on George because he's a good guy and she's a good person. And they go to an event over at the high school, and they're dancing. They fall into the swimming pool that's underneath the dancing floor. Great scene. Love that scene. So then one of the best lines in the movie, there's quite a few of them, but one of the best lines is, okay, so he's out there, they're talking, they're doing their thing, they finally got in some warm clothes, and he goes, okay, Mary, what do you want? And she looks around, and she's like, and he looks, and he goes, you want the moon? I'll get you the moon. And then it's George lassos the moon. So bottom line, they get married, have a ton of kids. She makes this little sign in their drafty old home that they love and they're restoring, because what is he doing with the proceeds of the one and only bank is they're building houses. And if anybody knows anything about American history, you know that after World War II, that's when we really went to the single family homes, guys. These little homes. In fact, my parents bought a little home like this. That's where the first home that I remember was a little 2-story home in El Cajon, California, something very similar to what these look like. And so his whole thing here is that they are building these homes. Okay, now let's fast forward. There's a crisis of faith, because in every story there's going to be a crisis of faith. And what happens is that his uncle had been working in the savings and loan too, and his uncle goes to deposit money at the bank. And he's a bumbling old guy, love him, but he's kind of a bumbler. And he misplaces the money. It's a simple mistake, but they catch it and they don't tell him. And so then they're saying, the banker, because the banker had it out for George, because George, he wanted to hire George, and he wanted to give him a 3-year contract, basically buy him off and get rid of the savings and loan. One way to get rid of your competitor, right? Modern day tactics many times. All right, so let's go forward. George is this responsible party, even though it's his uncle. He takes responsibility for the loss of the money. It was the loss of the money. It was the big deposit of the cash from these little homes. And they put a warrant out for his arrest. He's an embezzler, is what Potter, the old crotchety guy, is saying. So he runs, and he's desperate. He starts to think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm ruined. I brought ruin to the family. How can I continue? How many people have felt that way? How can I continue? Things are just so big for me right now. They've got a arrest warrant out for me. They think I've embezzled funds. Scandal. The savings and loan is going to be shut down. All these people will lose their little homes that were taking them out of these shacks that Pottersville had. It was it was scandal, and he's thinking, all right, maybe everybody would be better off if there was no more George Bailey. So he goes, he has this crisis of faith, and he's ready to jump from the bridge and kill himself, do himself in. Done. His family will be better off. But that wasn't what was going to happen, because you know what? This is a story that was produced in the 1940s, and it's a story many people think it was a simpler time, but in many ways it wasn't. You've got a world at war. You've just been through a depression, a major depression. People lost everything. You have the Dust Bowl. You have so much going on. Yet they had a way of looking through what some people call rose-colored glasses. And the rose-colored glasses in this story becomes an angel by the name of Clarence. Clarence is called on duty as a guardian angel that wants to get his wings. He's a second class, I think is what it was. And he jumps in so that, knowing, because he had been studying George, people had been praying about him. They'd been asking for help for George. The whole community, they all knew he was having a crisis of faith, and they pull together and they're praying for help. A miracle. I believe in miracles, guys. I've told you that before. So, crisis of faith, and what happens? Clarence shows up. Clarence is like, okay, what do we do here? I'm here. And he tells him flat out, I'm your guardian angel. I'm here to get my wings. George, we need to change these things around. He's thinking, oh yeah, old man, you know, where are you from? Let's get you where you need to go. He's still in a really bad mood. They're going to arrest him. He's being charged, with taking all this money and that he didn't do, scandal upon his family. And so he says, I'd be better off if I never had been alive. And Clarence gets clearance to give him that wish. And he finds out what it would be like if he had never lived. So we won't go into much of the story, but needless to say, it wasn't good. He wasn't there to do all the good deeds, of which one was that he saved his brother from falling in a frozen lake. And that brother ends up going to war and saving a whole transport. And he was recognized with a congressional, Medal of Honor, and went to the White House, and big deal thing. So Clarence lets him know, hey, you know what? No, your brother died. The transport, everybody on that transport died. Your wife never got married. She's the old maid. She's the librarian. She's very skittish, very scared. Everything was different because one man affected all of these lives. So he wants his life back. He's praying for his life back. He's decided that no matter what, he'll go to jail. He'll own up to what he didn't do, but whatever needs to happen, he's praying, let me have my life back. Let me have my life back. And he goes back and he sees that it's Bedford Falls again. It was Porterville when it wasn't his life, when he had been granted not to have lived. Back to Bedford Falls. So he's all excited. He's decides, okay, I'm going to run through the town again, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to go be arrested, and it's okay. I'm all right with that. Because you know what? My brother's alive. The people on that transport are alive. My kids are alive. My kids, he has a boatload of children, and it's a wonderful life. So what does the city do? A little town. They get together and they bring all their money together. Here, this money was never missing. It was never missing. It was just basically stolen from the bank. Let's just say it was hidden for the sake of the storytelling. And so they came up with it to take him and his good name and say, if anybody deserves the help, it's you. It's a wonderful life. So in the end, through the story, there's a story about a bell. And every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. So what I wanted to do is I'm sharing an old-time family heirloom that I have from when I was a child. Yes, it's a little Santa, and yes, it's very dated. There we go. He's a little Christmas elf. He doesn't really work anymore, but we're giving angels their wings right now for those that believe in it. This is one of, I'm very old-fashioned and very traditional, and this is from when my first Christmas. And so, yeah, it's older than dirt, guys. Wink, wink. And so I thought we would talk about the fact that no matter what, no matter how difficult life gets, and at this time of year, there's many that are having these George Bailey crisis moments. They're feeling like, I don't know that I can go on. The bills are too high. My health is too bad. I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow. I'm homeless. I feel helpless. There's so many that are in these situations now, just as they were in 1945, just as they were back throughout history. There's been those times. You can look at any time in history and you can see it for, as I started when Jay Johnson was talking about these different stories that you can tell. You can tell these tragedy stories, and in the end, basically no one wins. In the end, they lose their life, they die. Something like that may happen. It happens, guys. You don't want to be telling many of the stories. You want the stories of the hero. You want the story of the team. See, this is all of those stories. The stories of the teaming together. They're teaming together. They're saying, no, we're not going to let you. We're not going to let you in this, George. George, you've been there for us. We're there for you. This is an ageless story. This is an ageless story that many of us have those crises of faith. And yet, who has not wanted to pull from their bootstraps, but maybe they don't know how? Maybe they're so desperate. They're saying, I just don't know anymore if I can do this. This is where I want to bring up the service heroes. We have a team of service heroes. And I want to bring up Chemo Buddies for Life. We have a team of buddies and buddy ambassadors and buddies that are there for each other because we believe. Now you guys are getting it, huh? We believe no one should feel alone, be alone, feel this desperate. Yes, I'm pretty open. I love this story. This is one of my very favorites because, you know, in the end, it all works out. In the end, it is believed that Clarence gets his wings, that the town is restored, and the family go on. It's a wonderful life. Takes us into the 1950s. And the moral of the story, too, is that on May 8th, 1945, World War II ended. So many of you like me, and I know I went on, but you know what? This is a story. If you don't know it, watch it. Hi, Joy. I love you, too. I do. Merry Christmas, Kenny. Merry Christmas. Blessings to you too, Hermilo. Thank you for your support. You're always there. I appreciate it. And thank you, Mikey. Happy that you're here too. And Merry Christmas to you and to all. You know, Christmas to me, yes, total disclosure. I believe the story of Christmas that, and I won't go into much more, you can take it from there. I'm a very deep believer. And the thing that I believe and that takes me where I go is the story of unconditional love that I believe is told through the story of Christmas. You can use all the different analogies. It's a Wonderful Life, Scrooged. Who doesn't love that movie? I'm a movie person, so you know I'm going to use movies a lot, guys. Scrooged or Christmas Carol. There's many stories. The Littlest Angel, one of my mom's favorite Christmas books. I love that story. There's so many amazing stories, but in them all, the underlying theme that I get from them is unconditional love. And to share our unconditional love with others is helping us to tap into the service hero we all have inside of us. Have I had my crises of faith lately? Yeah, I have. Have I missed a couple days and I owe you guys a little? Yes, I have. There's no way to live in this world and to maneuver through the things that I'm attempting to maneuver without having challenges. And I have felt a bit like this lately in regards to, am I being the steward that I could be for my nonprofit Chemo Buddies for Life? Started it over a year, and it's nearly a year and a half ago. I started the research with it, and I started with my co-founder. She was with me for a few months, and then she left, and it's been me, and I've been working this nearly 7 days a week for over 365 days of awesome. And I chose not to go after funding in the very beginning because, like I've shared with many, that I wanted to make sure that I really could pull this off and that we could make a difference. I have no question now, none. Chemo Buddies for Life is making a difference. I kind of feel like this at times because of the fact that we literally now can trace back on a few people that they believe, and it's been documented in their medical visits, that these programs, if nothing else, have definitely helped them with their psyche and with their internal desire and drive to live. That's huge. That's huge. Yet, I've felt like this, and I have felt like this. Am I the one to be taking this into the next year? An executive director, part of the role of an executive director is to make sure that you can fund your nonprofit. I had the telethon. We had some snafus. Hi, Sharon, my senior ambassador is here. How appropriate that you're here now. Senior ambassador and service hero, senior ambassador of our Chemo Buddies for Life coalition, and a service hero for the work that she does in regards to that. Many of you know Sharon. And I am right now in that place that I want to make sure that I am being the best steward for Chemo Buddies for Life, that I am representing it well, and that I'm able to get it to be healthy this next year, 2019. And right now, guys, I'm struggling, and I've tried to be vulnerable, and I've tried to be out there, and I've tried to be positive, and everything that everybody says to be, and I'm just being honest, that it came to me in the middle of the night because I haven't been sleeping well again because I am worried. And this story came to me. And in it, you can look at it two different ways. And I'm right now looking at it in two different ways. And maybe you guys can help me. Way to go. Because either we can go forward with me as executive director for Chemo Buddies for Life, and somehow we pull it out and that we can fund for 2019, or we find someone else to be the executive director that possibly could do a better job to get it funded. Maybe more connections. I don't want anybody to, I haven't sold out, and maybe that's part of our problem, is that it's been tough because I could have gone and done the easy thing and go and get pharmaceutical money and go and get, but they would have owned us. They would have owned our little organization, and it would have become another nonprofit that you wonder, where do the funds go? And I'm a little stubborn, so I didn't do that. But I don't want to be so stubborn that we can't continue. So, no decisions have been made. But like in the story of George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life, and like the story that I shared with you, do this. In the very beginning, I told you about my grandfather, and I want to end here. And then I'm going to type in something, and if anybody chooses to help, they can. My grandfather and the story of It's a Wonderful Life both walked very humble roads. It's a Wonderful Life is probably one of the most loved and well-known Christmas shows, and one of the 1945's offerings that just about everybody knows because of the clerical snafu that took place in the 1970s. So what could have been possibly one of the largest earners for Liberty Films basically made them no dollars. But life is not always judged in dollars and cents. It's judged in goodwill. It's judged in life. It's judged in purpose. However, the unfortunate piece of this is that to continue in today's world and to continue something, you do have to be able to fund it. My grandfather, he could have been a wealthy man, a wealthy landowner. That was his birthright. However, his ethics and his integrity did not allow him to do that. His health suffered, and if anybody remembers my story of the 4 generations, who was the first in my 4 generations to get cancer and die of it? My grandfather, Ronald Mitchell, colon cancer. So, in being the steward that I am, okay, yes, pun, James Stewart, okay, no, sidebar, guys, I try not to be too serious about certain things, but I'm going to end on this, is that I believe in miracles. I believe in service heroes. I believe in the goodness of others. And I believe that when you have something that works, you go out there and make it happen. So if my making this happen is either me remaining as executive director or me stepping back, I would still be involved in some way, but stepping back to allow for it to go forward. I'm now putting it out there. I need that miracle. The bottom line is this, guys. I do not want to close Chemo Buddies for Life down. And I don't go into all the details, but I have right now a bit of a potter in my life that is pulling a little bit of a potter's move. And so I can relate to George Bailey. I can relate to my grandfather, Ronald Mitchell. And I can relate to the team of the citizens of Pottersville. I believe that there are so many service heroes, and in the end, without question, what do I believe? I truly believe it's a wonderful life. I'm going to type in, if anybody wishes to help, which I have to say that we did end up, today I did see that we had some type of a donation that came in for a little over $100. I want to say thank you for that. If anybody would like to help, I am looking for immediate help for yes, donations. If that works for you. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. I truly believe that you've got to do what's in your heart. That's really where I come from. I'm also looking for, what I really would like to do is find some companies that we could go into 2019 in a win-win situation. Chemo Buddies for Life is truly affecting people throughout the world. And I've been able to get it to that on a shoestring of a budget. But that shoestring has added up. And yes, it's been coming out of my pocket. And there's no more in the pocket. So I believe the goodwill that comes from Chemo Buddies for Life is something that corporations could definitely benefit from. And that would take us in completely into the next year. So who wants to team with me? Who owns a corporation, a small business, who is a CEO, who is a board member, who knows someone that's been affected by cancer and knows that if they were not isolated and alone, that they could have lived longer and their quality of life would have been better. And who wants to team with me? Because I'm ready to team with them. Or if you have a better idea, I can tell you this, I'm not going to let this be bought out by those that I've kept away, because the buddies are going to make a difference and we're not going to be shelved one way or another. So whatever I need to do to make that happen, can you please help me? All right. So as I end on this amazing, wonderful Christmas Eve in 2018, which is being celebrated as day number 169 of 365 days of awesome. Celebrate success through service. I believe that it's a wonderful life. I believe that people are service heroes and they have those service heroes inside them. They just need to tap into them. And I am no longer going to come across desperate. I did a desperate move and I need to just say I'm sorry for it. I won't go into all the details, but I did. And it let me know that that's not my character. I am like my grandfather. And it's better to walk away than to be desperate. I love the program so much. I'm willing to do what I need to do to make it happen. I dropped my Santa. I was going to ring us. You know what? I don't know. I keep getting. All right. Merry Christmas. Actually, I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow. So Merry Christmas Eve. See you all later. A double kiss today.